Yes, sir. That's some theme song. You're muted, Al.
Great. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here, glad to have you along. And I can't get enough of that music. The
I
music
can't either. I could have listened for 15 minutes.
we're gonna play it. We're gonna play it again.
Ooh,
Dr.
who
DeForest
is that? That sounds
Jr.
like Sounds of Blackness.
That Sounds of Blackness. Gary Hines. Gary Hines and Sounds of
I can
Blackness.
hear it. I can hear it.
Based here. I mean, it's the right time. It's the right message, and it's the right story. We're at a moment in time where clarity is demanded, and this is a voice of clarity. It's a voice of insistence. It's a voice of righteousness, and I'm so excited. I think it's time for reparations. So, Dr. DeForest Suarez, good afternoon. How are you doing? Thank you for joining my program.
Al, thank you. It's an honor. You are one of the veterans of these media platforms, and what I love about you is that you've not succumbed to the temptation of entertainment, that you are committed to information and empowerment, and I commend you for that. Silly has taken over for substance, and media causes people to do whatever it takes to get hits and views and likes and shares, and you've just stayed focused even before all of these highfalutin, as my grandmother would say, platforms. You were there. So thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you for what you do, and thank you for joining the program again. You've got just a lot of stuff to talk about. Let me read a little bit from the online to let my guests, my readers, and my viewers know who you are. Reverend Dr. DeForest B Schwartz Jr. is known as an active agent for change and is widely requested as a speaker. He's the senior pastor of First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens in Somerset, New Jersey, a former New Jersey Secretary of State and former chairman of the Federal Election Assistance Commission. His pastoral ministry focuses on spiritual growth, educational excellence, economic empowerment, and faith-based community development. He's the author of Say Yes to No Debt, 12 Steps to Financial Freedom, and he's issued a $1 billion challenge as a national initiative and free resource to help individuals and families collectively pay down millions in consumer debt. What a challenge and what an opportunity. And you're leaving the church, Dr. B, right? You're retired.
Yes, sir. 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I'll be a free man. Yes, sir.
I read the notes on your successor. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Well, the church is doing well. I've been there 30 years. The church last year in pandemic, we had our best year spiritually. More people served and volunteered than ever before. We had our best year numerically. We baptized, we had new members, and we had our best year financially. And I think as a Black leader of a Black institution, I am responsible to leave while it's strong and not stay there so long that I end up killing it so that my successor has to start from scratch. And so I am voluntarily stepping down. I have prepared my successor, and I believe the church is going to do greater things under my successor than they did under me.
Your successor is Reverend Dante R. Quick. He's a PhD.
Right.
Talk about him for a minute, because I looked at his press release. What impeccable credentials. What a powerful launching that you are doing in creating a pathway for his ascendance into purpose and fulfillment.
Well, I could tell you about his academic credentials. He went to Morehouse, went to Princeton, has a PhD from Graduate Theological School. But let me tell you what you need to know about my successor. I flew out to California to spend a week with him in August a few years ago. It was a Sunday night. I had preached 3 times that morning. I landed in Oakland around 11. We got up to Vallejo around midnight. And he insisted on taking me to a stop on the way to the hotel. I said, Pastor Quick, all due respect, I am worn out. I'm old. I could, whatever you want me to see, I can see it tomorrow night. Well, he wouldn't take no for an answer. And where he wanted to take me was to a gymnasium where his church and his peers were sponsoring a midnight basketball league for young black men. And for him, that was the most important thing for me to see. Not his new car, not his new shoes. You know how preachers will do. None of the preacher stuff. He wanted me to see what was happening in that community. And that night, I was sold that he needed to be someone that I brought to the East Coast when it was time for me to retire. And it has worked out that way.
Well, I wanted you to talk about your project, your mission called My Free, I think, or D Free.
Yeah.
D Free. And let me read a quote under the material that was sent. It says from you, the only thing worse than not having what you need is not using what you have. You're
Right.
saying, I'm helping Black people leverage their strengths, set financial goals, and determine the most viable strategies to achieve them. And you say Juneteenth is the perfect day to focus on closing the gaps that plague us and that fuel our social divides. And so one of the reasons that I really wanted to get you for today was this is our pre-Juneteenth program. And it's a great way to have give you a platform to explain what you mean. Why is Juneteenth significant? And why is this the right time to focus the mind of our entire nation, of our community, on economic independence, empowerment, on success, on justice, actually. And I think the operative term here, beneath it all, is on justice. Right.
Well, Al, you know, I have a list of reasons that I enjoy being Black that's too long for your show. I love being Black. I wouldn't trade my Blackness in for anything. I think, however, chief among them is the strength and resistance and power that Black people have shown under the worst circumstances any people have had to live for a prolonged number of years at any time in history in any country in the world. And I say that because Juneteenth is another reminder of how mean and wicked and evil slavery really was. Mm-hmm. It was bad enough that we stayed up all night New Year's Eve, 1862, waiting for January 1st, 1863. And we've been doing that in the Black church ever since. We call it Watch Night. But what's worse is that the enslaved people in Texas weren't even told they were free for another 2.5 years. Now I know we didn't have email, we didn't have internet, we didn't have telephone back in those days. But it didn't take 2.5 years to get from Atlanta or to Texas. So what happened, and what I love about our people, what happened was after we became free, both in 1863, 1865, we got busy focusing on education and economics. You know, just a few weeks ago, we remembered Tulsa 100 years later after that racial massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But what few people have really articulated is how profound it was that in those brief years after slavery, Black people had amassed so much wealth, had developed so much capacity that it literally drove white people crazy and they burned down Greenwood. And so my focus here is on making sure that we not only demand justice from the outside, but that we do as best we can with what we have. We're going to spend over $1 trillion. And unfortunately, we are in the habit of making other people rich. We even buy hair from foreigners to make ourselves look more Black. And so what my focus is on helping us realize the psychological traps that we're pulled into that cost us money. My focus is on helping us realize that it costs poor people more to be poor than it costs rich people to stay rich. Our focus is on making sure we use what we have. You know, we love to celebrate Rosa Parks. We love to celebrate Dr. King. We love to talk about the Montgomery bus boycott. But the Montgomery bus boycott was an example of us withholding financial support from an institution that would not respect us. Mm-hmm. Now, we've got institutions that don't respect us now, and we sometimes wait in line all night long for the right to give them our money. So D3 starts by focusing on debt delinquencies and deficits. And it's my own testimony. Listen, when I became a preacher, first thing I did was go out and buy a Cadillac.
Yeah.
Ignorant self. Because a friend of mine said, I'm glad you're preaching, but preachers don't drive Cadillacs. I mean, preachers don't drive Chevys. I was driving a Chevy. What I should have said was that's all I can afford. But you know what? I said, you're right. I went out and bought a brand new Cadillac, traded in a paid for Chevy because I wanted to look and feel like a preacher. That is what you call mental illness. When culture and peer pressure can cause you to spend money that you don't have to impress people you don't even know, that is a problem. And so we go after it. And in the process of doing that, we discern the hidden messages in these commercials that seek to manipulate our feelings. We realize we count the cost of cashing checks at check cashing joints that are in our neighborhood and borrowing money from payday lenders that are in our neighborhood and redirecting that money towards real estate, towards investments, towards building legacy. And that's what I had to do. I had to stop being dressed up on the outside and messed up on the inside and challenging church people to pay 10% to God while I was spending 100% on me. I had to stop living a hypocritical life. I was what the young people would call today woke. I worked for Jesse Jackson. I was 24 years old. So I was speaking truth to power. I was fighting racism. I was woke, but I was broke. And because I was broke, I couldn't write a check to the United Negro College Fund. I couldn't write a check to the NAACP. I could not afford to do anything without the philanthropic generosity of white people. And I think it's contradictory for us to claim we really care about Black people, yet every time we have a major cause, every time we run a candidate, we've got to go run into white people to finance our dreams. So that's what I'm about. That's what I do. I started with my little church in Somerset, New Jersey, and we've trained over 5,000 churches. We've got 300 chapters of sororities and fraternities. We are determined to forge a path for our own freedom so that anything white people do for us is gravy.
Great. I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. My guest is Reverend Dr. DeForest Jr. And he is on a mission to help us pursue economic justice in this country, and a critic of our internal practices, and a believer, though, that we have the capacity to transform, and in transforming, we find liberation and freedom. Thank you who are listening here on KFAI for this show, Conversations with Al McFarlane. But I want to thank my listeners and viewers who are checking into the program, both on the McFarlane Media social media platforms, but also in our national partnership with NNPA, National Newspaper Publishers Association, and the Black Press USA Facebook Live page. We're thankful for that potential to connect as well. Dr. Schwartz, what are the things that we can double down on, both individually and collectively? How does political activity feed into moving the needle in the right direction? How does something like tithing, talk about that, because there's ambivalence in our community about charity. Some outside our community describe us as not connected to the national, web of charitable giving. But from within our community, we know that our people give more and give freely, but we don't get the recognition for the giving. So talk about the whole question of how charity can and should work, and how it has worked in our community. If you would, talk about politics, how we do and practice politics that support our economic advancement and our freedom, and talk about the culture itself.
Sure.
I'm so impressed that anywhere in the world, Black culture now is like currency. Hip hop presently, but before that it was R&B. Before that it was jazz. We've always brought genius to humanity. We've never been paid for the contribution that we have made. And how do we acknowledge and then change that dynamic so that we reap the benefit of our knowledge, our skill, and our capabilities, our service to each other and to humanity?
Yeah, well, let me summarize, because you asked me 4 questions. let me just summarize my answer to each. First, let's talk about politics. I think after the 60s and the civil rights era, we made the strategic error of putting all of our eggs in a political basket. Don't get me wrong. I've been in government. I believe in voting. I believe that having more representation, if 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 they remember who they are, is better than having less representation. But I believe politicians should be economic lobbyists. I don't consider any elected official in New Jersey as my leader. I consider elected officials as our servants. And until we stop treating them as if they are celebrities just because they won elections, and start giving them assignments chiefly around economic interests, then I think we'll elect more Black people and still see more Black poverty. We have a prison system, for instance, in our state where we've got plenty of Black elected officials, but less than 1% of the contracts by the prison system go to Black-owned businesses. Yet the prisons are full of Black and Hispanics, and the Black Legislative Caucus says something every now and then, but it should be their job to fight for economic opportunities from the tax dollars that we pay. So I'm real low on politics. I'm uninspired by politicians, Black, white, Democrat, Republican, because we have allowed them to rule over us instead of serve our economic interests. So that's how I feel about politics.
Let me throw an Al McFarlane-ism in to emphasize what you're saying. I often say they get the money, we get the misery.
Well, yeah,
and our misery becomes a business for them, and there's no incentive for them to end our misery because it pays well.
Yeah, and it's a bait and switch game, and it's not just politicians. But what I mean by bait and switch is that you have a certain sector of the Black community that benefits from all of the suffering of Black people, and they are made to appear to be the solution. So you're in Minnesota.
Yes.
You know, there are Black people all over America that are being appointed to positions, that are getting contracts, that are getting grants in the name of George Floyd. As if getting one Black business rich or appointing one Black person to a board of directors solves, quote unquote, the Black problem. And it's offensive. And until the Black grassroots rises up and speaks for itself, then we'll always have representatives who can use the plight of poor Black people to enrich themselves and their peers. Let's talk about church, because I've been doing this now for a while. You know, a lot of people don't realize that Black people are in fact the most philanthropic group in America. Proportionately, we give more of our income to charity, mostly churches, than any other group in America. Here's the problem. The problem is, our churches have not been taught how to function as economic engines. You know, when I built our new sanctuary, it cost $23 million. I went to the bank to borrow $13 million, and the bank said, we'll lend you the money, but you can't use your contractor. And I said, well, why can't I use my contractor? And they said, well, because your contractor has never built a church like this before. And I said, well, all due respect, there are very few Black churches in our area of this size, and white people don't hire Black people to build their churches. So if we don't hire a Black man to build our church, and white people won't hire a Black man to build their church, when will a Black man ever be able to say, I've built a church before? So we'll either use our contractor or we'll go to a different bank, because it's our money. We're not asking for a grant to build a church. We got a loan, and the loan has interest, and the interest is their profits. And so churches have to be taught how to function as economic engines in our neighborhoods. We have churches all over America that have vacant land. And that land could be used to develop multi-use projects. That land could be used to develop affordable housing. And unfortunately, we've become so spiritual. And listen, you heard in my resume, I'm for spiritual growth. But to have a spirit with a hungry body is contradictory, because my spirit can't feed my children, and my spirit can't solve my healthcare issues. And so we need holistic ministry, and our people need to become a little more discerning about where we give our financial support. We support a lot of these cats on television who make Reverend Ike look like Dr. King. You know, when I was coming up, if somebody called you a Reverend Ike, that was an insult. But we got jokers on TV now that make Reverend Ike look moderate, because it's about money, and there's a whole wave of preachers that convince people that if the people make the preacher rich, then God will make the preacher rich. And that's why I launched this program. I wanted to have an alternative to what they call the prosperity ministry, because if the people don't prosper, but the preacher does, then the preacher's not a pastor, he's a pimp.
So what about mobilizing or redefining or clarifying the purpose, educating both the church and the members about the power of giving, recognizing that we do give. How do we create a new understanding and awareness and appreciation of the power of our capacity to give?
Well, we tried. We have webinars every Wednesday for free. We have a curriculum for pastors and members for free. Before COVID, of course, I would go out and speak. I've never charged a church a fee for speaking. We give information away. And again, you know, the disappointing and depressing part of my work is that people always tell me that they would value me more if we charge money. We'll have a conference that is free. And I'll have people say, well, you know, if you charge some money, people will take it more seriously. So it's hard work, but, you know, it's God's work is what I've been called to do. And we do it one church at a time, one sorority at a time, one fraternity at a time. We have got to stop focusing on things that make us look happy and really focus on concrete things that can solve our problems. And you know, I was involved in foster care for 23 years. We formed a foster care agency in New Jersey. We were the only Black-owned foster care and adoption agency in New Jersey. The foster care system sends more children to jail than any other system in our community. Yet when you talk to people about foster care, it's like the words bounce off their heads. We went around the country and helped churches set up foster care ministries so that we can take our own children. We've got to have 1 million kids in foster care. We could solve a lot of our problems if we would just cut off the pipeline by loving and embracing the Black children and the brown children in the foster care system. So I am addicted to solutions. You know, we have enough people who make a good living pointing out problems. You can write a book, you can give speeches, you can be a real famous just going around talking about how bad things are. But what about the solutions? Who is doing the work that can help us mitigate the effects of slavery and racism and systemic racism and individual racism, and creating models that other people can use in their communities to really offset and counter all of the negative that is aimed at us every day. And that's what I'm committed to. I can't solve all your problems, but you come visit my work, and I can show you 5 or 6 ways we have solved some problems in New Jersey.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane, a wonderful conversation with Reverend Dr. DeForest Schwartz. We're talking about economic justice. And Dr. Schwartz, I know you've got to leave it in about 4 or 5 minutes here, ask you to close discussing the question of culture. On the program today, after you, we've got 2 people. One, Leon Jordan, initiates and manages the Juneteenth program here in Minnesota.
Wonderful.
And Brother Lamar Say is on, and he's with the VRI Network. I think I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about a film or show that he's doing. We got a front page story on our paper this week about the show called Cracker. And we'll talk about what that means and what the spirit is behind that. But let me ask you to address the question of culture.
I wish I could stay, but they got me on the schedule now. You think I was running for office or something? They got me on the schedule. It's crazy. But Lord, we come from the richest, deepest, strongest culture of any people I know. Unfortunately, many of us have traded in authenticity for entertainment. And most of what passes as culture is not our culture. Our culture, after Juneteenth, one of the first social developments was the family reunion, because Black people, having been disrupted by slavery, decided that what we wanted to do was to reconnect with our families. They sold us to Mississippi, they divided parents, and so the family reunion became an institution among our people precisely because of our desire to counter slavery. And Juneteenth is characterized by parades and celebrations and families getting together. We've got to learn our culture from our culture and stop allowing the filters that want us to see ourselves as slaves as opposed to enslaved people, that want us to see ourselves as pimps rather than people. You know, the dominant culture has not changed since putting Tarzan on TV, when a white man could swing through trees in the jungle and the little Black people had bones in their noses talking ooby gooby, and the animals seemed smarter than the people. And it has changed in form, but it has not changed in function. And what we have to do is to fight as hard as we can. I wish I could hear Lee and Lamar and Brenda, because we have to do everything we can first to rediscover our culture, to protect our culture, and then to teach our culture.
Well, thank you for being here. Let me introduce you again. I didn't mention Brenda. Brenda is the writer who, on our team, writes the stories of these events. And the fun thing about Brenda is that she and I were in kindergarten together.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, nice.
3 years ago.
And the beauty of that is the beauty of continuity, of us always being able to look at our parents and our parents' parents, and to look at our children and our children's children, and to understand that we're in the middle of the middle. This is a stream that is unending, and that we are at the center of it. And in understanding that, we derive a sense of purpose and a sense of power. Dr. Schwartz, for you, I've asked my producer to play Reparations again. And after this song, we'll come back and talk to Brother Lamar and Brother Lee, and Brenda will join the conversation as well.
I'm sorry I have to leave, but let's get back together again.
Yes, let's do it. Calvin, go ahead.
Powerful.
It's time. It's time. It's time. I know it's time. The generation for reparation. Pay up, time to pay up. Reparation. Right now, reparation is really ours, you know it's due. Pay up, time to pay up.
powerful message. Really amazing. And guess what? Here's Gary Hines. Gary Hines, how you doing, my brother? Gary, can you hear us?
Blessed with all, my brother. Thank you so much for everything, Big Al.
Well, it's such a pleasure. This music that you're doing, you've been doing forever, but you're doing once again with this song and your 50th anniversary suite is powerful, life-affirming, life-giving, and makes a warrior stand on behalf of our people, our culture, and on behalf of humanity.
Great.
Well, we can never thank you enough, and the entire community in this our 50th anniversary, Brother Al, of Sounds of Blackness, on behalf of Sounds of Blackness, for 50 years of support and friendship and brotherhood and blessing that is now culminated in a time for operations in concert.
Well, it's always a pleasure. Your music inspires people here and around the world. And Gary, I just want to say thank you again. And it's timely that you brought this message forth around Juneteenth. Sort of one more step, one more mark on our path to completion and to fulfillment. I think our time is unique. This is a special time, and you are documenting that in the voice of the culture and with the videos. So, Gary, we've always had a challenge with the audio with your telephone. I'm going to.
I couldn't really hear your question, Brother McFarlane. I apologize.
Well, it wasn't a question. It was just a statement of praise, saying how much we appreciate you and the Sounds of Blackness. I'm acknowledging that we've always had difficulty connecting with you with our technology and operating from the telephone. But just having you here again is a blessing, and I want to thank you for all of the Juneteenth world, all of the African diaspora, right? All of our community for the power and the vision that you bring. Lee, jump in here. Lee Jordan is here, and Lee Jordan is not only the organizer of Juneteenth, but also a filmmaker. And I'm glad you're here with Brother Lamar. I was going to talk about cracker in a minute, and this all ties together. But Lee, say something to Gary about how we look at him and his music.
Well, I agree with everything that you said, and I hope that the world understands that we are so proud of the Sounds of Blackness. Every song, every clap, every bit of energy that is brought through is just amazing. And as far as I'm concerned, maybe next Juneteenth we'll be handing out reparation checks. So that would be my dream and my goal. Yeah, and yes, we do have quite a bit planned
Sounds
for
of Blackness, Brother.
So that's my 2 cents.
Yes, we are. Sounds of Blackness are looking forward to at 1:30 this coming Saturday on Juneteenth.
Yes, sir.
No, Gary, we're not hearing that. We're not hearing that.
On the state capitol grounds. And so
1:30
we're inviting
this Saturday.
Juneteenth, and some of them are featuring our music virtually but we'll be live the state capitol grounds at 1:30 on Saturday.
Perfect. We got it. State Capitol grounds, 1:30 live. Sounds of Blackness. Gary, thank you, my friend. And to all the Sounds of Blackness, thank you. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Thank you so much. I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. Continue with today's program. Gary, hang out as long as you can. I want to bring in a brother named Lamar Say. Am I saying that properly, Brother Lamar?
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
Lamar Say is with the Vire Network. Vire?
Yes.
2 things I got right. I'm doing good.
For 2.
It came to my attention, you guys have a special Juneteenth program this week. And I'm going to let you introduce what you're doing, what you've got. But I'm going to screen share what's in this week's Inside News as you talk about the program Cracker. Go right ahead.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me, and everybody here for being here, giving us your attention and so on. My name is Lamar, obviously. I'm CEO with Vire Network, which is a new streaming outlet available on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iPhone, Android, anywhere you can watch TV, basically. So Cracker is one of the first series that we're putting out, and it's been really kind of controversial. The director Dale, who's a really good guy, he came to us with it probably about a year ago, because I guess there were other outlets that were kind of shunning it, and were scared to put it out. So several deals didn't go through, but the premises of Cracker is basically, there's a guy who is, it's a sci-fi drama. So there's a white guy that is, uh, I guess, transformed back to slavery, and in the parallel universe he's in, white people are the slaves, and black people are the slave owners. So there's a whole, just with seeing that trailer alone, is there's shock value. There's a sense of we've seen many movies where we've been obviously as slaves, but this dynamic is something that is crazy to watch. Is crazy. So it just got me excited from when we met Dale and when he brought it to us. By the way, he's a white guy too. And so, he's really passionate about it. He's had this project since about 2017, 2018. And, if you talk to him about it, he is really like behind the whole purpose of the shock value of the project, letting white people see what it's like to live in that world, from our point of view, not just talk about it, because we can watch, slave movies all day, but really seeing that white people as slaves is something that really kind of hits home. And I'm assuming that's why people were scared of it. This is a series that we'll be looking to do like long term. We're just dropping an episode right now on Juneteenth.
And I think I'm trying to share some work from my computer, and it's causing probably a bandwidth challenge. Brenda, if you're there, and Lee, if you're there and hear me, jump in the conversation.
Yeah, I'm open to any questions, anything like that. Definitely.
Well, first of all, I think the concept is amazing. And as a filmmaker, why not? And exactly. The idea, if the gentleman that wrote this or helped kind of put it all together is also Caucasian as well, that gives a whole nother level, because it gives people a chance to kind of see both sides of the coin, so to speak.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
So in my point, I would say, hey, if there's anything that I can promote on my Facebook page, but Juneteenth Speaks, please don't hesitate to let me know. Reach out to me after this. We can talk and maybe figure out something. I don't know, but either way, I'm more than happy to help. Yeah,
I would definitely. I would love to share, to share info with you, and and connect. We're actually, what state are you in? We're actually in doing screenings right now. We're in theaters for the rest of the week until Thursday. We've been in theaters since last Thursday, where we're doing screenings, and then the official premiere is going to be on the 17th. And then the official film or project launches on the 19th, on Juneteenth, actually.
Well, I'm here in the Twin Cities.
Oh, got you. Got you. Well, you'll be able to check it out, through the platforms. It's a free platform. Everything is, it's able to be downloaded and viewed. And it's a really, really entertaining thing to see. I expected with this that there's either going to be people that hate it, and they're like, "Whoa, this is too much," or people that are like, "Oh my God, I'm ready to see this." Like, and between myself, Dale, and a couple of the other actors, Hakeem, who was in King Kong, and a bunch of other movies, and Lorenzo, who's in a so-called Paradise City. We've all been getting messages from people, and them obviously longer than me, for about 2 years. Every other day, Dale is sending me screenshots of people like, "Where is this? I need to see this now." Like I definitely, people are loving it. So yeah, I think it'll be a very good visual. It's going to upset some people, but it'll also make it easier to see things from that other point of view that we've never seen before.
Well, we are also the one thing that's important to me about Juneteenth. I'm the Midwest and State Director for the National Juneteenth. So when I talk about Juneteenth, I talk about it under the understanding of freedom and what that means. And so to me, that's the educational standpoint that I try and bring to our Juneteenth celebration here in the Twin Cities, is understanding what actually freedom means and how it's changed from the day that we were, no longer slaves to this point. So even, any discussions along those lines that leads us to a better understanding of how to move forward as a nation, I think is wonderful.
I agree.
So as my daddy would say, that's my 2 cents once again.
No, I agree. I think freedom has a lot to do with your mentality and what you consider freedom, what you consider success, what you consider happiness. And it's mostly in the mind. You can be free physically and trapped in the mind and, never really get anywhere, or the other opposite way around. So I think freedom really is a mind state.
Absolutely.
There's people that are in jail that are, happy and they smile every day. Even though they're in jail, they feel progressive in some things that they do. And, they're, even though they're locked up and they're not free, they're still free, mentally.
Al McFarlane, this is Conversations with Al McFarlane. I'm back. I got kicked off the call for a second, but the technology is amazing. You go to Plan B, and here I am again. Thanks to my guest here. I might have missed some of this, Brother Lamar, but what has been the reaction to the plot, to the premise? Maybe you said it, but say it again.
Oh, that's okay.
The reason I'm asking is that I think that what white people generally fear is that Black people will do to them what they have done to us. So what's been the reaction so far? Yeah.
It's either people hate it and they're scared to watch, which I know they're going to watch anyway. They just won't talk about it, or people love it and they can't wait for it to be out. There's no in the middle with this. Like once you see the trailer, it's not, it's like no holds barred, and all cups, all bets are off, pretty much. But that's it's pretty much been either people are scared to see it and to live that, and I get that we've seen a lot of slavery films and projects lately, so they kind of take that angle, or they're like, I definitely want to see this. This is so great. I want to share it with everybody. I think everybody involved and the idea is great, and so it's either one side or the other.
Does it have the same feeling as Django, for example? Or I watched recently Black Jesus. Black Jesus was a new series.
Yeah,
starring Eddie Murphy's brother and some other excellent actors. But breaking through, what we traditionally would expect in the storyline from Hollywood. So how do you compare this? And Lee, as a producer, filmmaker yourself, how do you compare the approach?
Well, I can only speak for me. As far as I'm concerned, my approach is that, let's say, for instance, take the movie 12 Years a Slave. I want people to understand, first of all, it was longer than 12 years. So, so make sure, defining what exactly that means. And really, as a filmmaker, my voice is one really of history, of family history. So that's the standpoint that I take it from, knowing that my family has a legacy of understanding the history of cotton here in America. And so for me, it's not only eye-opening, but soul-searching and inspiring, and yes, sad, but also it is empowering to me. Because the more I know, as I had a friend of mine say, when you know better, you do better.
Lamar, Brenda, go ahead.
No, I just had a question for Lamar. Is it going to be streamed in the South? I'd love for it to be in Kentucky and South Carolina. I'm sure that they will try it, try to exit out, since they've done the same with the 1619 Project, this fear of telling the truth. So I was just wondering if they're going to be streaming it.
Yes, we're streamed globally. Right now we're in 118 countries, I think it is.
Okay.
So we're anywhere where you can, Apple TV is, or iPhone or Android, or Roku and Amazon. We're on.
So they really can't block it.
No. So, and that's the beauty of our platform, is that myself and my partner, we own it. So there's no, there's no Wizard of Oz that's about to come by and be like, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. So this project, once you see it, you understand more the purpose of our platform with allowing something like this to be put out, and just overall being able to do projects like this when other people are scared. I mean, the director, he's come to us, he said there's maybe about 4 or 5 other big companies, big companies that were like scared of this project. And we have the freedom where we can do what we want. So that's really the purpose of our media outlet, is to allow stories to be told, minus the filter and minus somebody over your head telling you what you can and can't do.
This is fascinating. So tell me more about the network and about the business that you've embarked on. How did you arrive to creating and launching this venture? What were your expectations? What are your goals? And what can we look for in the future? Finally, how can our people support you and the work, the business?
Okay. Yeah. So I've been in media since about 2011. My partner since about 2000 or 99. We've had digital and print magazines. So we've interviewed all the biggest, artists, from the Jay-Z's, the Kanye's, and blah, blah, blah. And us creating this in 2018 was really about us, accepting that media wasn't spread by magazines anymore, but everything was going to streaming. So we had to do something to stay relevant. So we switched over our media outlets or our digital magazines into channels. Currently, we have about 14 channels. So there's hip hop, there's lifestyle channel, there's food channel, family channel, comedy channel, international channel. We have our own sports channels with sports leagues. We distribute a league called the WNFC, which is women's professional football. It's 20 teams throughout the nation that play like real football. We also have our own boxing league, which is professional up and coming boxers. We live stream throughout the country. Mostly has been on the East Coast so far, but we got about 40 matches this year. And then we're also locking in a UPSL, which is a soccer league with 350 teams nationwide and worldwide. So we're looking to really, change what media is and how, our influence, basically. If back in the day, if there's only 3-4 channels you can watch certain sports or shows on, then that's what you watch. And whatever program they put on is what those are your options. But now, we can put out other types of projects. We can own it, and we can put out quality stuff that is, truthful, such as, this film with Cracker and so on.
It's impressive.
Yeah. So what's the pushback? Has there been pushback from the marketplace, from competition, or is it
the pushback is actually the fun part, because I'm in a lane that no one's been here before, especially with streaming. And so every now and then I get companies that are these big companies that I talk to, and they steal an idea from me, and then they run away, which is kind of funny to me, because I wouldn't think that, but it lets me know that we're in a lane that even if they've been in 20, 30 years, they're not here, and they're still figuring it out. So the pushback has been from, things like that. Also distribution companies that aren't necessarily educated about streaming and how streaming works, how to get paid, and so on. They still want to do things the old way, which is kind of obsolete right now. And I've had companies come back to us later on and be like, "Hey, okay, yeah, we see it. Like, let's go." So it's there's a pushback, but I always remember that for one, we as Black people are the creators. So I always understand that there's some people that I can take this to that may not see it, and as a creator, I have to accept that and still be able to move forward without that slowing me down.
And I can agree with that, because when we think about most of the things that we do as Black people, we're so often so used to going to Master's house to get something instead of actually like getting it for ourselves. And when we have this opportunity, we should grab it. We should hold on to it and not let them shake us in what we believe, because we know it's true.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the big things that I try to keep in focus is, when I was coming up, the music as far as hip hop was more positive. It was talking about things that were, about the community and, uplifting. Even though there was the negative stuff, there was uplifting stuff. Once these big companies got a hold of hip hop, everything went to, detrimental, negative, kill this person, blah, blah, blah. And it all kind of streamlined into that. And that's because we didn't have any other avenue to watch films and watch music and everything. Even when I look at the films that were put out in the 90s, how they did the Boys in the Hoods and the, Menace to Societies, and they were good films, but I think they were also part of the agenda to send Black people to prison, along with the musical agenda. So with this company, we get rid of that. There's no way that you can tell us what's cool, because we invent what's cool, and now we have access to it all over. So that's where we're at with everything.
Brother Lamar, I watch, my wife and I watch a lot of African TV, watch Ghana movies on YouTube, Netflix, also a lot of South African and Nigerian movies. And I'm impressed because I can see the quality of the production, year by year, film by film. And so I raised the question to ask you, what is and can be the connection between our creative community globally? Because if we cannot, we are a huge market globally. Are we thinking that way? How do we tap into the global power that we can bring?
Most people don't. Most people don't think that way. They think just in the terms of U.S. and our outlet is bigger outside of the U.S. than we are in the U.S. The U.S. is really brand based. So everybody wants to align with a brand or a name to kind of validate them. People want to say they watch something on Netflix because Netflix is the thing, but you can go to another, outlet that is, download right next to Netflix and it has better movies. But because Netflix is that brand and we've been so affiliated with brands for so long, that's what we always try to connect with here in the States. But other places, they're more open to different types of content, different types of, just different ways of doing things, because they're not over here where it's so judgmental, about certain things like that.
Okay. Any other questions, Brother Lee or Brenda? This has been a great interview. I'm so glad to have this conversation with you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. It's great.
Thank you very much. I would love to connect and show you the platform, show you the the trailer, and for you to view it and let me know what you feel for yourself.
Well, I'm putting my phone number in the chat for you.
Okay.
And let's follow up, but we'd be glad to have you come back as often as you want to bring trailers, right? And talk
definitely.
about the things that you're producing and presenting. We can do that all day, every day, because we think it's important.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And let's make it happen. And
I'm with that.
Okay, let's do it. Listen, we're about out of time. It's 2 minutes to the top of the hour. We're going to close today, but I want to thank Lamar Say from Vire.
Vire, yeah.
What does Vire mean? What's the name come from?
You know what? We didn't even make up an official name. We might just let the fans name it once we get to that point. and let the fans name, come up with an acronym or something like that. Our initial name was Viral Music Media, was our company before this. So we kind of just try to figure out something that was aligned with that.
Okay, great. Well, listen, Brother Lamar, thank you. I'm so impressed and so pleased to have this contact with you. Lee, as always, thank you. Brenda, thank you for your work and your
pleasure.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
You guys are the perfect backup.
All things Juneteenth.
My internet went out for a minute, but I knew I had a good team on board, and no problem. We keep rolling. I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. Join me again next week for Conversations with Al McFarlane. We'll see you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, Queen Justice, where are you? Did they beat you up or no? Lock you on the ground, take the crown away from you?
Oh, Lady Liberty, red, white, and blue. Did they take your dignity with their bigotry? Teach you that you're born to lose.
Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough.
We've had enough
of all the rules you break.
We've had enough
of all the money you make.
We've had enough.
No more life at stake.
We've had enough.
This is a proclamation.
It's been 400 years and we're 400 late. Together we stand from state to state. Going back in time won't make America great. We need justice now, people won't wait.
Action, no more distraction. Every step we take, we gain traction. If it can happen to one, it can happen to all. United we stand, divided we fall. Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough.
We've had enough
of all the rules you were breaking.
We had enough
of all the money you were making.
We had enough.
No more life gets taken.
We had enough.
This is a proclamation.
Free or guilty,
It's gonna get filthy.
you better believe. Just roll up your sleeves.
It's gonna get rough. It's gonna be tough.
We all agree, we've had enough. We've had enough
Of all the rules you're breaking.
We've had enough.
All the money you're making.
We've had enough.
No more life gets taken.
We've had enough.
This is the proclamation.
We've had enough.
Trayvon Martin and Tommy Rice.
We've had enough.
Michael Brown and Eric gonna pay the price.
We've had enough.
Philando, Breonna, George Floyd.
What? We've had enough.
So many